Welcome to the Mentor Studio, where today's thought leaders and leading entrepreneurs inspire and bring real-world ideas that help you take your career to levels you've only dreamed of. Now buckle in. Here's your host, Michael Silvers.
Welcome, everyone. I'm excited today. We are here with my dear friend, Wade Galt, entrepreneur, author, life coach, creator. And I just love this, the 3-day weekend club, so that we all can just enjoy our family, our friends in life a little bit more. So welcome, Wade.
Thank you, Jonathan, so much for having me. I loved our talks, loved having you on my show, love what we've talked about. I love what you're all about. And I'm just really happy to be a part of this.
Yeah, so I want to jump in. So what is the 3-day weekend club and why is it?
Okay, so the 3-day weekend club is really, it's an online site, it's a coaching program, it's a mindset. It's about helping people create a lifestyle where they can enjoy 3-day weekends or whatever their preferred schedule happens to be. Not everybody wants 3-day weekends, but where you have time to enjoy life. So for some people, it means working the days that their kids are in school so that their kids, when their kids are off from summer, that they can be off with them. For some people, it is specifically having a 4-day work week, 3-day weekend lifestyle, having Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays off. It's really just about being able to know that inside work, whether you're an employee, an entrepreneur, a freelancer, a side hustler, an executive, a CEO, whatever it is, you can make an impact with your work. You can make a difference. You can do really good stuff. You can make a good income. And then separately, you can have time for family, for friends, and life. And like I tell people, look, I want to be really productive and impactful during my work. And I want to be impactful and productive in my personal life. I want to have an awesome personal life. I want to have time for family, for friends, for freedom, for life. And so it's really about making room for both of those.
Now, my guess is you were not always living this 3-day weekend lifestyle. So what was your life like and what happened with you to begin this new way of living?
Sure. So I've been blessed to have really awesome parents. My father's an entrepreneur, so I got to see from his perspective the idea of the freedom of being an entrepreneur, choosing your own schedule, those sort of things. I got to see from my mother, she chose to be a stay-at-home mom as my brother and sister and I grew up, but she's a thinker, philosopher. She's the one that got me reading all sorts of things about psychology and spirituality and self-esteem and those sort of things. And so it was always kind of on my radar that you could kind of design your life the way you wanted to. And for years, even though I had that information and I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years, I still kind of, to a certain degree, accepted what I got. In my case, it's because I really know I'm blessed. I understand the situation in the world, and it almost felt weird to ask for too much more. But then I had one client situation where we were working on some things, and we were just working on his business, just financial stuff and how to grow his business. And he mentioned how his son had already graduated high school. And he's like, Wade, I missed the window. He says, I love my son. I love my family. I was working on the business with the idea that I'll have enough time to hang out with him once I get to this certain income level. And of course, when I got there, he was pretty much a senior in high school and on his way out. And I feel like I missed it. And I said, well, I wouldn't worry about that, man. I know obviously you wish it was different. Plan some activities, see what you can do. And I wasn't coaching this. It was just kind of what I thought off the top of my head. So 6 months later, we meet again to talk about his business. He said, Wade, thank you so much for that idea. It seemed like a simple one. It seemed so basic, but I had some time with my son. We did somewhat NASCAR racing at one of those places where you go, I think actually was the Daytona 500 or one of the off tracks near there. And they did some different things. And he said, that was so awesome. We have some more things scheduled. I thought that was really great. And I still didn't think much of it. And then 6 months later, he didn't show up to our 6-month meeting because he had passed away. He was in his mid-50s, had a heart attack. And it was just one of those things where it's like, wow. And I really didn't know the family very well. I know friends of friends, so I've never gotten a chance to talk to his son. I've never talked to his wife, but I know that he got something, and I imagine his son got something that was so precious. And so it was one of those things that really reminded me something that I've known, but I think other people don't realize is how important it is that we enjoy our life, how fragile life can be. I just heard it a few weeks ago. Another one of my friends from high school, I'm 51, and another friend unfortunately passed away. So these are the things that we know, but we sometimes lose sight of as we get caught up in the grind, the hustle, all those different things. And so for me, being aware of that was something that once I experienced that with a client, and I had a couple other friends just really get on me to say, Wade, you're at the beach on Fridays. You're talking about shifting your schedule. Why would you do that? Enjoy life. Life is short. And so that's been something that I've done. I've never regretted time with my family, with my friends, in my case, playing beach volleyball, the hobbies I love. I've never regretted that. I've regretted investment decisions. I've definitely regretted some bad dating decisions. I've regretted so many other things, but I've never regretted the time. So that's just something that comes first for me. And it's something that I think we do need to feel good enough about ourselves that we deserve it. But it's once you can do it, it's so huge.
So that's a really good point that you make about feeling good enough about ourselves to know that we deserve it. Did you always know that you deserved it, that you were good enough, or did you have to have a mindset switch?
I have always understood, possibly because of the way I was raised by a lot by my mother, but my father as well. I have an understanding, doesn't mean I'm right, but I'm right for me. I have a knowing personally that there is a benevolent divine force in the universe, that force created me. I didn't just accidentally happen. My heart doesn't accidentally beat all these times without me thinking about it. I know for me that exists. Whether it does or doesn't, I can't prove. Really not interested. It's worked for me for 51 plus years. Good. But I know that. And I always know that. My mom even talks about a time when I was younger when I guess I was kind of restless at church. I was raised Catholic, and there's a lot I've gotten from that that's great. There's a lot of things that not so great. But we were there, and she said I was kind of squirming in church. She goes, okay, Wade, go kneel down and talk to God for a little bit. She just kind of needed a break from me. And she goes, I want you to think and hear what he says, and then, and come back to me. And so I kneeled down. And she said, Wade, you got one knee down. The other knee wasn't down when you bounced back up. And she said, I'm good. He says, wait. What did he say? He says, well, he loves me. And, I don't know if that was just a clever answer. Cause I mean, how do you, a 5-year-old, how do you really tell him like, okay, it's the right answer on some level. But I've always kind of known that. And so for me, there's a distinction. In my understanding, there's self-esteem, which is, am I, as a unique individual in the universe, worthy of awesome things? And for me, that was never the challenge. The challenge was one of those other beliefs that came in with that I've heard in different areas, but I also got it through my upbringing, which is, well, with a lot of opportunity comes a lot of responsibility. And so for me, the challenge was, okay, well, wait, if you have all this, at least compared to the rest of the world, you're very well off financially, abundantly. There's still people that don't have water and food. There's still people. So it was almost like this, well, you can't stop working until those people have all that stuff. And for me, I've kind of over the years taken a little bit of a lighter approach to say, look, I'm doing what I can. And I'm not doing every single thing I can. There are things I buy certain things. I mean, I could, this is a nice shirt. I could have just worn t-shirts all day. So I'm trying to find that balance of what feels like, yes, I can enjoy a level of abundance to a certain level. And also I can share with others. And I just think of something that I heard Wayne Dyer once say, which I love. And I don't know if this is true, but I do think it is because I've seen it more and more. He says, look, if you go to the ocean and you want water, you can go there with a thimble or you can go there with a dump truck. And you can take out all the water you want. It's going to be fine. Ocean's going to be fine. And so that's something that to me, I step into more. So it was not so much about deserving individual, like, does God love me? If there's a God, and again, I believe there is, so I'll stop saying that. But was it like, okay, is me taking it? It was more of the abundant scarcity thing. If I take my time off, what's the opportunity cost? Could I have been working harder? Could I have helped more people get water and money and this and that? And as I've gotten older, and also as I have less energy, I've also found that in order for me to be at my best, 30, 32 hours a week, I usually work about 30, 34 hours a week. That's my sweet spot. As I've gotten older, I really can't put in physically a good 50 to 60 hours like I could before. And maybe they weren't even good. I was convincing myself they were. But so for me, the rest, the rejuvenation, who I come back as. And recently, you and I were talking before the call. I just got back from Peru and flew the red eye. And for the last couple of days, I've been not as energetic. I use a sleep tracker. So it basically told me, yes, your resting heart rate shows you're not as well rested. I get grumpy. I make bad decisions, or not bad decisions, but I don't make as good of decisions. It takes me longer to make decisions. So in all of this, it's been this combination of feeling that I'm doing enough, that I'm doing my part enough as best as I can. And yes, to a certain degree, I guess maybe it is kind of a self-esteem to say, yeah, I've done enough. I've worked hard enough. I'm good enough. I'm valued enough. Yes, I can take some time, have time with my family, my friends, our children, and not feel so much like the weight of the world is on my shoulders, and which is also kind of an arrogant thought, as if I'm by myself, I'm going to fix the world. And yet, it's one of those things that sometimes if we take it on too seriously, can be kind of difficult.
So what do you say to the entrepreneur? We hear all these things, go get your side hustle, but man, you got to hustle. You got to put your work into it. It's not 9 to 5 anymore. Now it's 5 to 9. Like if you're going to make it, you got to put all your energy into it. You're saying no. So
I'm saying absolutely no. If you're working more than 40 hours a week, unless you're the first 3 to 5 years of something, it might take 50 to 60 hours to do something. Or if you're working a job 40 hours a week, it may take you 10 to 15 hours to start a side hustle. But number one, if you've been an entrepreneur more than about 5 years and you're working more than 40 hours, you're doing it wrong. You could be doing it better. You could have better delegation. You could have better outsourcing. You're missing something, because if you look at the math, how is it that a Zuckerberg, how is it that a Bill Gates, how is it that an Ariana Huffington, how is it that a Jeff Bezos could literally, at least dollar-wise, be multiple zeros better than you or I or other people that are making, let's say, 6 figures or less, or whatever? How could they do that? Well, somewhere in there, they're leveraging, they're more productive. And I don't want to get into each individual, say, well, this one's like, whether people like them or not. My point is, results can be gotten in less time, and nobody cares how hard you work. If I hire somebody to cut my grass and they say, wait, I just want you to know, it took me 9 hours to cut your grass. I was using scissors. I lined up each blade of grass. Sorry, dude, I'm still paying you the same amount as if you used a lawnmower. There becomes a point where it's good enough. There becomes a point where you're barking up the wrong tree. There's diminishing returns. There's a lot of different fancy ways to say it, but there's a point where it's good enough. And a lot of the times, just like that example I gave of me thinking, well, as if I have to save the world, as entrepreneurs, it's a very seductive belief that we are so important. And when we're in our own business, well, of course, if you're a solopreneur, you are that important to your business. But then if you look at a business like Microsoft and you say, well, what if Bill Gates said, no, I'm going to do tech support for everybody because nobody does tech support like I do? So well, you're never going to grow. You're that caught up on yourself. And by the way, you're wrong. You're empirically wrong. That's not a fact. So a lot of the times when we get caught in these traps, we're limited by a limiting belief. We're limited by a function of how we do things. And I intentionally said you're wrong up front just to kind of mess with people. It's not wrong. You could be more productive. You could be more efficient. You could be more effective. I watch it with myself. This year, the first 4 days of the year, because we were in this trip and coming back from Peru to the US, I got in an average of 4 hours a day. It turned out to be 5 days. And I thought, wow, I've gotten a lot done in 20 hours in a week. And I normally do like 34. And again, I'm really important, Jonathan. Don't tell me otherwise. I'm an entrepreneur, buddy. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, okay. Well, because for me, that would be a quantum leap. Because years ago, I did the quantum leap from 5 days to 4 days. And I've been at 4 days for 7, 8 years. It's like, okay, well, wait, what's that next thing? And not just what is the opportunity cost financially if you're not productive enough or get enough results in less time. What's the opportunity cost lifestyle wise? In my case, our children are 16 and 14. What am I missing out on if I'm convincing myself I'm too busy? What else could I be present for? And just even in life, even if I don't have children. So, or what other causes could I volunteer? And because in my case, I look at when I say, 30 hours a week or whatever it is, that's my work time. I look to do other volunteer stuff, but there's some volunteer stuff. If I could get my same results in 10 less hours a week, what else could I do for the world? So before we get all high and mighty about, well, I'm a hard worker and I'm sweating and I'm hustling, I'm grinding, By the way, look it up. The Hustle is a dance from the 70s. It's fun. Look up grinding. And well, maybe don't search grinding in front of your kids, but that's supposed to be fun too. In the dance in the 80s and the 90s, someone says you're grinding, you're not like working hard, you're dancing. It's good stuff. So people have taken something that's so beautiful, and even work. Work can be an awesome way to express ourselves and to share our gifts, our divinely given gifts, if we believe there's a God. And yet, if it takes us longer, we're missing out on things. Whereas if we can get the same results, not effort, same results in less time, then it expands our possibility to do more things, help more people, or yes, maybe even make more money and say, yeah, I'm going to make even more money so I can give to people. I have some friends that they say, wait, I don't want more time. I just want to make more and more money and donate to causes that I believe, Wade, in my case, if I donate, an hour of my time, okay, I'm going to, let's say for Habitat for Humanity, which is a great organization, I think. And if I go and build a house, for an hour at Habitat for Humanity, well, wait, there's 100 other people that could do that, or 1,000 at the same level that I could, or perhaps better. But if I work an extra 2 hours in my business and then donate the money from that, wait, I can make enough to buy one of those houses. Again, different people have different economics. So there's no right answer. But overall, this idealization of saying I'm hustling and grinding is no different than saying I'm slow. Another way to look at it is I'm just slow. I'm not very good at my job. I'm incompetent and I suck at this job. So it takes me a long time to do it. Now, of course, if you're new, that's not necessarily the case, but to idealize, to say, yeah, I'm so awesome. I'm slow at this. I'm bad at this. Somebody doesn't have the time to me and they don't work as hard as I am. Maybe get more competent. I don't know.
So yeah, so where does somebody start? So we got our gig and we've been doing it for a little while. It's not brand new. We've been doing it. We know that we can get good results, but man, it's just taking a long time. Maybe I am slow. Maybe like where do we start? Okay, I hear, Wade, I don't want to postpone my life for 20 years, but I have no idea what to do because I'm in the thick of it, right? I'm in the thick. I'm not up here looking down. I'm in the thick of this 50, 60 hours a week. Where do I begin to figure out what you're doing?
Sure.
I haven't been doing it. We haven't been doing it for 7 years. So where do I start?
Yeah. And the first part I'm going to say applies to whether you're an employee, to anybody, whether you're an employee, an entrepreneur, freelancer, solopreneur, whatever, is first look at your expenses outside of work to see what don't I need that I could reduce the expenses on. Because if you're an employee, it could mean you don't have to work extra hours, or it could mean you get to do a more enjoyable job that maybe you don't have, like, for example, I'll use a basic example. Some people really do love being teachers. Some people did it because they just wanted summers off. Some people love being teachers and they reach a point where they say, Wade, I can't do this anymore. I didn't just do it for summers off, though that's pretty awesome. But my expenses are so high now, Wade, that I can't be a teacher and have the time I want. So, well, hold on. What are you spending your money on? Well, it depends. If you can say, look, my necessities, my levels of what I need financially are on a lower side, well, then now that opens up a lot more job opportunities for you. Also, if you want to travel the world and say, I want to work for some company and, and do tech support or something like that, that's a lower income per hour job, but adds flexibility. So there's a balance of the more you spend in general, the more you have to work. So looking at what's truly necessary in your personal expenses, and then if you're an entrepreneur, in your business expenses. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we buy this coaching course or these paid ads, and there's nothing wrong with either, but we assume that they are going to do the work for us, and we just throw money at things. Whereas sometimes the better thing might have been just keep the money in your pocket and just take Friday off. So it really depends. But once you start getting an understanding of, and this is where it came down to for me, is once I understood this as an employee. Okay, at one point, I think I was, and I'm gonna use a round number. I think I was making about $50,000 a year take home. And so I just thought, okay, I'm working 250 days per year. My time is worth $200 per day. And I just kept even per day. So I was like, okay, so if it's 200 per day, and if I'm working about 20 days per month, so that's $4,000 per month. Well, every $200 I dropped from my expenses, I could work one less day. Now, at that point, I was an employee, so I didn't have the permission to drop those days. But when you're an entrepreneur, and now that there's so many flexible employment situations, it is very possible. So it really is about finding out what's most important to you. And then sometimes it does depend. I play beach volleyball. It's a rather inexpensive hobby. Some of my friends love playing golf. It's a more expensive hobby. And there's no moral judgment there. It's just math. And so in all of that, there's the math part, but that's actually the second most important thing. The first most important thing is, what's more important to you than working? So if you really love doing things, you love traveling, you say, I'm going on this trip, this 10-day trip, you'll find a way to cram before the trip, and you'll get things done, and you'll deal with it after, and you'll figure it out. You'll make things work. And you might sacrifice some expense. Okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to get the premium cable TV channels. I'm going to cut my gym membership, whatever it is. But I'm doing this trip. Well, all a 3-day weekend lifestyle is doing that every weekend and saying, okay, what's really most important? And what are the things I can drop? Because if you don't have something scheduled in your calendar, especially now talking to the entrepreneurs, if you don't have something scheduled in your calendar, and I'll just use Friday as the example. So let's say you're used to working 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and you take Saturday and Sunday off, and you truly take them off. Like, you're not doing email, you're not working, you're really off. You say, okay, how do I get to Friday? Start scheduling things on Fridays that are really flipping awesome to do, because then you won't miss out on those. Because if you schedule nothing and then you hit Friday morning, you say, well, now I have an alternative. It's Friday morning. I've scheduled nothing. I can either do nothing and make no money and I have no plans, or I could do something productive for my business. Well, in that scenario, yeah, the better decision is to do something, because you haven't scheduled anything. You haven't planned anything. Now, technically, scheduling something could even be that I'm going to schedule downtime to do nothing. But if you truly are like, well, yeah, no, I'm just bored. Well, most of us entrepreneurs, we're not the types of people that like to stay bored for long. We are restless enough that we're the 1 out of 10 people on the planet that started our own gig. We're like, no, something drove us for freedom, creativity, money, a combination, that we said, no, I'm doing my own thing. So by our nature, we're usually not, chill people. I'm going to take Friday off because why not? There's got to be something cool that we're doing. But if you start planning that awesome life, and you start putting as much time into planning your personal life as your business life, and you start having these awesome experiences, then you start experiencing what you're missing out on, the not financial opportunity costs, but the life opportunity costs. What are you missing out on? How do you get to your deathbed knowing that you can look back and say, man, I nailed that. That was awesome. I didn't work too much. I worked really well. I impacted people's lives. I made good money. I helped people. And I had this awesome lifestyle where I was present with people. Like, I did them both right. And that's it's never been more possible on planet Earth to do that.
So tell me if I'm getting this right, because many, I shouldn't say many, the ads we see, they're scrolling by our Facebook. Get your 5-figure month, get your 6-figure month, get your 7. And so money is really valued. And what you're saying is, it's not that money isn't valued, but you're saying time is valuable. And your ad, were there to be one, though I've never seen it because you're just doing your thing, would be, Get your time back. Get your 5 figures of time. Get your 6 figures of time in your life so that you can actually live your life now, not later. Is that
Yes,
what I got?
Absolutely. So there was a study that was done. Everybody says Harvard, so I think it was Harvard. Everybody says it's just Harvard study, so it makes it sound important. I think this actually was a Harvard study. It might have been Stanford. I'm pretty sure it's Harvard. And it's about 5-6 years old, so the numbers could be adjusted slightly. But the bottom line of the study was that in the United States, up until $70,000 per year, people's self-report, what they said, how they said they felt about their life, they got happier as they made more money. So there was no, happyometer. They just said yes. So as you looked across income, you'd say, okay, up to 70,000, the more money they made. So that the $60,000 person did report being happier than the $40,000 a year person. So, and again, it's not a fact that 60,000 is happier than 40, but it is a fact that these people reported that. So the reports that's a fact, right? So, but once they hit 70,000, it just tapered off. In other words, 80,000 was not happier than 70,000. 700,000 was not happier than 70,000. It was like marginally happier. And the explanation of the study was, well, they were able to get their basics met. In other words, I can still get from point A to point B. Does it really make me happier to get from point A to point B in a more expensive car? Well, for a few people, maybe yes, but for most of us, point A to point B, I got there, great. I have food, I have time for friends. So there is a certain amount of money where, of course, if you're earning below it, you do literally have inconveniences and problems that will take up your time. I mean, if you're literally homeless, you need to make the money first. So that's definitely relevant. But overall, time is a more precious commodity. And I love, there's something, I'm trying to remember Brad, I think it's LEA, that he said on his, I love this. And I'm not sure if he made this up or whatnot, but I heard it on one of his TikToks. And he said, he's done this, and maybe there's a study done this, again, probably at Harvard, but there's a study done where he asked people, and he says he does this now, he'll ask people, okay, I'll just, okay, hey, Jonathan, I'd like to give you $10 million. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Now I'm going to add one clarification to the mix now, Jonathan. I'm going to give you that $10 million, but you have 24 hours to live. You want the $10 million?
I don't really need it.
No. So what you just said was that one day of your life is worth more than $10 million. Now, that doesn't mean we get paid the $10 million, but subjectively, you're like, no, whoa, hold on. No, I won't trade. She said, well, okay. But we're doing that. We're trading our time at times for things that aren't as important. And this is where, for me, something even as simple as this stuff on my face, and you might not have seen, I'm 51, I'm Gen X. I was raised that you shave, and it's a sign of disrespect if you don't shave to people, and all this stuff. I don't particularly like to shave. I'm not against shaving. I'm not for shaving. I don't like to shave. As my wife says, I shave for love. I shave for money. Well, my wife and I have been married, coming up on 19 years. And she's like, wait, I actually like it better when you don't shave. Great. And now, maybe because of this positioning, I don't shave. With my insurance agency clients, I now shave most of the time, but even still. So I'm like, I don't like to do it. And it takes time. And you might say, Wade, really? Maybe I'm slow. It takes me a good 15 minutes to shave. So for me, if I did that even 4 days a week, that's an hour a week. That's 50 hours. That's a week of my life, work week wise, just going like this. It doesn't do anything for me. So I don't shave. Now I do shower, just so you all know, just to brush my teeth and do all those things. But so it's one of those things where I think you just need to decide what's most important for you. But there's an exercise we do in our coaching programs, and there's also a tool, we just have it on our website, of your 20 most impactful, positive life experiences, like the 20 most exciting things. So for, I got married, we had children, whatever it might be. I started my business, I won the championship, I asked a girl out, whatever it is. And you make a list of those things. And for most people, somewhere between 80 to 90% of those are going to happen in their personal life, not their business life. So you say, okay, well, if most of my important experiences happened outside of work, where are they probably going to happen in the future? And that's not to knock work. There can be very meaningful experiences happen in work. And again, usually people have some of them, usually, again, somewhere between 10 to as much, let's say 20 to 30%, but still it's usually personal life stuff. So for me, and this is sort of clever math, but it's, if you have 2 days, let's reverse the equation. If you have a 2-day weekend and you say, wait, I have a 2-day weekend and I'm going to live for X number of years. Okay. Well, if you had a 3-day weekend now, and if the majority of your best life experiences happen during those 2 days, you've now increased your valuable, awesome life expectancy by 50%. You could still die the same day, but now you have more time to have more fun, to do more things. And again, this is not work bashing. In fact, I probably even need to change my logo because the work, it says red and focus instead of some other prettier color. But that's because how I started. I just wanted less work. I was like, oh, I don't like my work. And then it became, now I really enjoy my work. So it's like, I do want more meaningful, productive, impactful, high income, high impact work, but I also want a lot more time outside. And again, as much as I love doing this with you, as much as I love helping other people, I still have more fun on my weekends than I do, on average, than I do when I'm working. So it's one of those things. Now, this in particular, because in my mind, I believe this is going to help more people do this. This probably right up there is right up there with play. So for me, this is as fun. So I want to have fun in my work. I want to have fun outside my work. But this is like one of the most fun, doing these sort of things. This is like of my top 3 things to do: coach, connect, and create. Connecting with people, podcasts, interviews, this sort of stuff, sharing. This is like my best stuff. Before this, I was responding to some emails and doing some things and saying about some stuff. Not as fun. So for me, the time, I don't think you've ever heard anybody say, again, I wish I worked more, but so many people say, I wish I had more time. So I think something like that, that's not only been validated by the book by Bronnie Ware, The Five Regrets of the Dying, and so much other wisdom in life, The Cat's in the Cradle and the Silver Spoon, Little Boy Blue and the Man on the Moon. I mean, there's just so much that says, yeah, life outside work for the most part, or at least to put it a different way, life and connections that are not tied to, well, I'll only talk to Jonathan if I make $5, which is more of a transaction. That's not to knock transactions. We need transactions to make money, to demonstrate the work, but there's something different about, I'm just here to give, I'm just here to be present. There's some different thing about it qualitatively. I don't know how to explain it, but it seems to be more valuable to humans.
If we took a look at your schedule, we got your calendar.
Yeah.
Like, what does it say in it? Is it just, there's 4 hours of work, or, is your fun scheduled in there? I want to know what your book is like.
Okay. So Fridays are volleyball. I like to do one thing per day for the most part, or one thing that I have to get done. Fridays, I have to play beach volleyball. And for a while, I didn't do it for about 6-7 years. I became a grouch, and that's a nice word for what I became, because I wasn't happy. I thought that the best path was to be a dad, to be the best dad was to not get any fun time and just be present, hyper present with my wife and my child. And I work from home. Yeah. Anybody who's been a parent is like, no, that's not really a good idea. Great intention, horrible execution. But so Fridays, and it doesn't take me all day to play volleyball, but usually Friday, I'll start playing at about 8 in the morning, and I'll be done by about 3. So I'll be home about 5. And as my kids tell me sometimes, like, Dad, if you've played for a long time, it's really hot. You come home, you look stoned, you look like you're burnt out because you're just really exhausted. So I'm not getting much done that night. We'll watch a movie or whatnot. But so Friday is volleyball, and Friday is my day. That's me. And my wife has what she does. She likes quiet time. She loves personal time, does the stuff she does. She actually has a 3-day work week. So she already even beat me on that. Saturday and Sunday are family, friends, fun, that sort of stuff. No work. Technically on Friday, sometimes I'll check my email. And okay, so you mentioned, are you dogmatically off, 3 days? So I have a small software business. In a software business, you're expected to give support Monday through Friday. Most of my income, and that used to be 90%, 100% of my income. Now it's about 40% of my income. But I have clients I've had for 20 years. They know I'm really not available on Fridays. I will check my email after I've played my volleyball, after I'm exhausted, and I'll, just to see, was there anything that exploded? Because it's not going to affect my day after I've done all the things I want to do, to just check it in. More than 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, it'll just be, hey, can I check in with you on Monday? Or here's a quick form email. So I'll do like 15 minutes, because the opportunity cost of that is I would have to grow my software business to afford a full-time person that I used to have when my software business was bigger. And right now, my software business stays the same without me doing a whole lot to it. And so I'll make that concession and I'll give myself a pass. But because overall, again, it's my definition, it's what I want. So it's, when I first did it, I felt like I was going to confession to tell people, like, oh my, I actually sometimes work 15 minutes on a Friday. But it's like, okay, great. But long story short, so Friday's volleyball, Saturday, Sunday, family. Monday is creative stuff I like to do, podcast interviews, and me creating and having no appointments, no agenda. Most of the time it works out that way. Tuesday is coaching. Thursday is coaching. Wednesday is me doing what I want with my time, productively, work-wise. And that's evolved over time, but that's pretty much what it looks like. And then in there's different things. And I try to do the Pomodoro thing where I work for an hour and I take 15 minutes off. And so there's nuance in there. But overall, it's just like one thing to get done. So on the Tuesdays and Thursdays, yeah, I have to generate income. I hustle on those days. I stir up stuff. I sometimes do the things that I don't really love doing, but that makes, like making sure I sent that extra sales email or whatever it might do. So there's still, and any of the stuff about growing a business, marketing, getting to know your clients, follow up, retention, all that stuff, I do those things. It's just that I've reached a point now where, because we keep as a family our expenses low, I can afford to 2 days a week really focus. I pretty much earn my income in 2 days a week. And then the other 2 days, I like to be creative. I like to work on the next thing. So to use a baseball analogy, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm getting enough base hits, enough steady, solid income to pay for our expenses. And then Mondays and Wednesdays, I'm working on the fun projects and what could be the ridiculously, World Series winning grand slams in the bottom of the ninth with, the things that could just knock it out of the park and multiply it by 5 to 10 zeros. But I don't need those. And it's not to say I don't want them. I want them. I want them. I very much want them, but I don't need them. And so even though with a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, and we live in Naples, Florida, um, it can be a lot of pressure for our kids about, well, this kid has this and they have this amount of money and this, and like, yeah, well, there's certain things we have and certain things we don't. And no offense, I'm not willing to work on a Friday just so you can have more nice, I'm not going to name brands because I don't want to put down any brand, but just so you can have a bunch of like really name brand stuff that you don't need, especially well before when they were like, 6, 7, and 8. I'm like, you guys are going to grow this in a few months. At least now, both of my children are in age. My son's now 6'3", daughter's I think close to her height. So at least now if we buy stuff, it's like, okay. And it's harder to resist. It's like, well, I could use this for a long time. And you've always told us you buy quality brands, Dad. So it's a little harder, but at the end of the day, I know, and this does come back to the self-esteem part, I know I'm worthy of 3 days. And as a father, I do a good enough job as a provider, at least I think so. Maybe if you got surveys from my kids, they might say differently. Although I think
I'll
they think
interview
they
them
will.
next.
I'll interview them next, exactly. But I'm doing well enough. And I'm not perfect, but I'm doing my best. And so I'm content with that. But yeah, that's pretty much the schedule. And the beauty of this is when your schedule is the schedule that you really enjoy, and that's your default schedule, you don't need vacation. You want vacation, you take vacation, but you don't need it. And also, if you have just a absolutely horrible train wreck of a week or a day this week, you know that next week it's still going to be good, or you know that you're still taking off on Friday, or even if in a particular week you're working that Friday, whatever it is, or God forbid, because it's not that big of a deal, but another good week's coming. So for me, it's all about making your default week as enjoyable as possible with your family, your friends, your hobbies, time to enjoy life. If you do that, if every day you have a good day, at the end of your life, you've had a good life. So it's kind of simple.
Do you have a daily routine that you do to keep yourself energized and focused and on this plan? I mean, do you meditate? Do you do your morning pages or workout? Like, what's your routine?
Sure. So I am not the greatest at executing routines consistently. I am really good at organically adapting my routine, but for the most part, there's a couple things I always do. I always look to get to bed early. I've gotten more into tracking my sleep. This is one of those Aura rings. Sleep is huge for me because I've come to realize I make way better decisions, and I've gone from used to being to average even from about 9 hours of work in a day to about 8, and I'm getting it down to about 7. I do better. My sweet spot, and I've seen a lot of the research, 5, 6 hours a day, I do my best work. So I'm sleeping, get to bed usually by 9:30, 10 at the absolute latest. I'm up at about 6, and I meditate. I do yoga for about a little routine I have that's usually about 20 minutes. And other than that, I exercise, I bike once in a while, but I have things I do regularly. I'll go for a bike ride 3 to 4 times a week. I will do yoga at least 5 to 6 times a week. I'll play my volleyball on Fridays. I will now, specifically at this time, because we just had Hurricane Ian and things are a little off, I'll technically play some volleyball on Fridays, some volleyball on Saturdays, because we just actually yesterday finally got to go back to the beach. But for the most part, I take a lot of breaks. I work from home, so it allows me to get up roughly every hour and walk around, or sometimes I'll break down my yoga into 15 minutes and 15 minutes and 15 minutes just to keep doing things and getting up. And I just do projects. There's something Tim Ferriss said in his book, The 4-Hour Work Week, that I love is, or actually maybe it was in his book, or at least definitely was in an interview. I think it was in an interview because it was after his book got really successful. And they said, well, what do you do now? They said, you're making enough money that you don't need much, because he doesn't spend a lot either. He's like, for me, an opportunity I'm going to choose is something that I'm going to love doing it, even if it failed by financial measures, that I enjoyed the process, I learned something, and I worked with people that I find awesome or fascinating. So for me, that's something I'm looking more at. And admittedly, so I'm 51, our kids are 16 and 14. We don't have any other children coming. So from that perspective, I feel like as a father, we're kind of coming out of oh my gosh, I just need to grind all the time to make sure that the bills are going to be paid. And I've also just gotten better at making more money in less time, to where as I'm finding the opportunities that are more in line with people who are on the same wavelength as me, those people want what I already offer rather than me trying to find everybody. So I'm getting better at niching down. I never loved the whole avatar exercise of who's that one specific person you want to help or what do they like. And yet I'm finding that whether I like it or not, there is a certain type of person, not necessarily a demographic, but a psychographic, a person that says, I value time outside of work. I value helping people. I want to make an impact in the world. I value relationships, those sort of things. So when I'm doing that, ironically, I really don't care if I work 40 hours in a week or if I work 20, as long as I'm enjoying the process. But again, I'm balancing my time more, and now having kids about to go to college or out of the house in the near future, and having parents, my dad just turned 80. I'm more aware of, well, okay, yeah, I really want to get in more pickleball with my dad, more walks with my mom, things like that. Because as much as I hate to think about it, reality would suggest that, well, that might not be around forever. So
If I open a dictionary, your dictionary, the Wade dictionary, and it said success, what would your definition be next to it?
I would say that knowing that I've impacted a lot of people's lives positively, not in the sense that, well, they all say Wade's awesome. I'm less concerned about that, but that I've made an impact on people's lives. And as an author, as a podcaster, that sometimes you impact people that you'll never see them. Like maybe in the afterlife, I'll see, oh, these are the people I don't know. But to know that I've made a positive impact in people's lives, to know that I've done my best to be a good, kind human being, to know that I've had a truckload of fun and, just enjoyed life. I love to laugh. I love really bad, stupid, inappropriate joke humor. So laughing a truckload. I don't use it on my podcast because I'm trying to just make sure I don't turn off certain groups. Having fun playing. I would love to know, which at least at this moment, unless they're lying to me, that my children, my wife, family loves me and that they value who I am and who I try to be to them. And the same with my friends. Overall, there's a word that I've tried to teach my children to embody it. Say, people say, if you could teach your kids to do one thing, and for me, the word is considerate. And love is obviously important, but specifically considerate for me is when I consider what I'm doing and how does it impact Jonathan? How does it impact the listeners? How does it impact that? Because usually if we do that, and we're all human, and I certainly have moments where I'm extremely inconsiderate, but if I can do that, it's one of those things where that would probably fix like most of what's not so good in the world. Like if we got past all the, blah, 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 here I'm on my soapbox about, whoa, let's forget about all the nuance of the world religions. Let's go to the 2 or 3 core things. Be nice to each other, love each other, treat each other, golden rule. Like, can we get those down first? Let's knock those out first. Let's get those down first. And then we can worry about, all the news things, like what you can wear, when you can eat, what type of food, and how clean is it or how dirty is it or what days, let's throw that aside. Let's just focus on these 2 or 3 things. So for me, it's like, that sort of thing, to know that yes, I've done that, and I'm blessed to either have fooled myself or to have done well enough that I live that. I don't have regrets. I've published the books I know I want to publish for sure. There's other books that I have in my works that I'd like to get out, but the ones I felt compulsive, like I have to get these out. Compelled, that's the word. Compelled to get out there. I'm not looking to die anytime soon. But at the same time, I really feel like I'm enjoying it. And I feel like I've been semi-retired for at least the last 6-7 years. I, for the most part, get to do the work I want to do, work with awesome people like you, and doing work that I really believe in. And so from that perspective, wow, that's holy cow. I guess, at least by my definition, I'm pretty successful. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you for that.
That is so awesome. I love that. One last question. What does self-love mean to you?
Okay, so I want to first make a distinction, and then I want to get to that if that's cool. So the word self-esteem is one of those phrases that has a lot of meanings. There's a lot of great work on it. I've been blessed to get a master's degree in psychology, and I've seen at least 8 to 10 different definitions, and through coaching work and just reading of self-esteem that I think are serviceable. But I like to try to, so we're apples to apples. For me, there's capital S self-esteem. And I think maybe I got this from Deepak Chopra, like your highest self, yourself, like you're the creature that I believe that God created. I believe that's true self-esteem. Like, do you believe that the creator of the universe values you and that you are valued and you are infinitely worthy, not the only one who's infinitely worthy, but like all of us, infinitely worthy, infinitely, God's children, however you want to word that you're valued and you're valuable. If you believe that to me, then, and you know that without arrogance, without like, yeah, I'm better than people. No, like your value. That to me is capital S, self-esteem. I believe what a lot of people refer to as self-esteem would be more accurately called performance esteem. I'm a good athlete. I'm a good author. I'm a good doctor. And that's very important. But I think that shifts. For example, I have very high performance esteem as a beach volleyball player, as a coach, as a father. As a brain surgeon, I have zero performance esteem. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. So I think self-love is more of the first. And in my experience, if you don't believe that the divine, the creator of all that is, if that's the case, and again, I believe that's the case, and even more importantly, if you believe that there is a divine creator of all, and if you believe that that divine creator is for the most part benevolent, and yet that divine creator doesn't like you, that's really hard to recover from. Because it's like saying, if my mom doesn't, I mean, think about if your mom and dad doesn't like you, and you think about almost so much of our psychology profession is around that, what they call it your primary relationship. And to me, that's your secondary relationship. Your primary relationship, I believe, is your relationship with your creator. So if you don't believe your creator likes you, and I'm not trying to knock religion, but if what you've gotten from your religion, spirituality tells you that, wow, that's tough to overcome, because it's like, dude, if the person that like, or the being, the whatever it is, that like knows all, sees all, just like, dude, you suck. Dude, come on, man. That's a tough one. That's not Simon Cowell on the panel telling you suck at singing. That's like the end. So for me, to have self-love, I do think you have to believe the creator loves you and respects you and values you and esteems you unconditionally. I believe that's required to have self-love, because to me, self-love is when you say, I agree with that. It's really like, yes. Now, do I do stupid stuff? Did I do bad stuff? Am I sometimes being a jerk, being a this? Yes. Am I acting like whatever? And I don't get caught in the semantics. If you're being a jerk, well, you're being a jerk. Doesn't mean you are a jerk. You're being a jerk. If you be a jerk for a real long period of time, then maybe people would say you are a jerk, and you're still, to me, but who you are. But at the end of the day, self-love is, I did this, I failed, I still like me. I did this, I succeeded. I don't get too high on me. I still like me. I did this with bad intentions. I was pissed off. I really tried to hurt somebody. That's crappy. And I see me. That was the best I could do. Okay. I still like me. So it's me, even for me, it's almost like self-like is even more, because self-love, and again, love like self-esteem, a word has so many different meanings. But if you can come back after and say, you know what, did my best. And I think I've been blessed from all the mentors I've done, and I've done work. And this is the part I would say, I know in quite a few people in my life who don't love themselves. And I do think it's possible. I didn't used to think it was. I do think it's possible to really love other people and not love yourselves. Because I've seen a lot of people that they really can do the verb of loving people and giving to them. And they can be harder on themselves than other people. I don't know why it works this way, and I might be wrong, but that's at least been my experience. But I have found, and those people usually, at least the ones I know, they've not done the work. Maybe there's too much pain in why they don't like themselves. Let's say a parent was mean to them or whatever, that they can't bring themselves to do the work of looking at themselves to then get back to that point and say, despite all that, despite the fact that Johnny or Susie or mommy or daddy said I suck, or this experience, and I genuinely feel for those people, because I don't think they have a level of self-love, and yet they seem to be able to give it to others. And I'm just like, yeah, that person loves me, and I'm like, oh wow, that's tough. But I do think when you can say, yeah, you know what, I'm doing the best. And again, I've done the work. I've looked at myself. I've looked at the things that are like crappy that I've done, and like, and this is not a joke either. I've not murdered anybody. I've not intentionally tried to hurt physically somebody, other than being in fistfights. That's a whole different conversation. At least to me, we're both trying to hurt each other, whatever. But in other words, for the most part, I think I'm a pretty well-intentioned person, but I think most people are. And I think when we do things that are really not so good, it's because we have tough situations we're trying to get out of. And so overall, though, after all of that, being able to look at yourself and say, okay, I accept, I still like me. I think that is the most important work to do on the planet. There's nothing, any more important than that, because if you look at the history of most of our violent, murderous leaders, they didn't love themselves. Hitler, bin Laden, this, all you hear about family problems, things where they didn't love themselves. And so for me, the best thing I can do as a human being, as an employee, as an entrepreneur, as a citizen of the world, definitely as a parent, is to do my work and figure it out. Just be willing to do that. You've done it. I can tell. I know just from working, I know you've done it. It's not easy. It sucks sometimes. You have to look at yourself and say, yes, I intentionally tried to hurt somebody. That's crappy. And yet, okay, if it's the case, and I believe it is, that person, that being, that whatever he, she, it that created me, the divine, can still look at me and be like, yeah, dude, I created you. You've got flaws. It's okay. I'm not, this isn't a trick test. I didn't make you with flaws or with the possibility for flaws and then judge you for that. So I'm not judging you. And again, this is my belief. I wouldn't say I'm not selling it. I hope people get this, because I do think this is an area that a lot of major religions do have wrong. I think it's just inaccurate. It's a faulty thing. It's a human understanding, a misunderstanding, I believe, to think that the most wise being on the planet, in the universe, would create us with flaws and then blame us for having flaws. We don't even do that with our kids. We don't set up our kids and say, hey, you know what? Here's 5 cookies for dinner and spinach, and in the morning I'm going to judge you by whether or not you ate the cookies or the spinach. I mean, seriously? Come on. So, but for me, in all of that, when you can love yourself, and then also, gosh, I just had a not so nice fight with my daughter yesterday. She said some things which she then apologized for. I said some things which I apologized for. And still I look back and say, well, maybe we had to have that fight, because we tried to do it civilly and it went beyond civil, and then it was ugly, and I'm not proud of it, but I'm limited. I'm a human being, man. And not as an excuse, not to say that, I can let myself off with anything, but say, I really did do my best at that time, and I tried, and I'm going to try to do a bit again next time. I'm not going to do I'm sorry, and I'm going to do it again next time, because I'm just going to keep saying I'm sorry, but keep doing it, because that's not really sorry. But yeah, if you can just love yourself and be like, yep, I'm doing my best and I'm okay. And I don't know, I think it's so huge. And I think that's, as a last thought, I think that's the obstacle between people that at least can host a podcast or be on a podcast. I think it's one of those things that keeps, or start their own business. I think the self-love piece and the self-acceptance piece, can I accept myself still if I fail? Because you're going to fail as an entrepreneur. You're going to get your butt handed to you, and you're going to get that happening even if you don't. So why not try?
Wade, it is always a huge joy to talk with you, to hang out with you. It's the 3-day weekend club, folks. Join it, make it a part of your lifestyle. Wade, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Jonathan. I really appreciate being here. I really appreciate who you are to me and the work we do. And it is truly always a pleasure to connect with you, my friend.
We'll see you next time.
We're honored that you invested time with us today at the Mentor Studio. Now, don't be greedy. Share this knowledge bomb with all your dope peeps on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. Actually, we'll even pay you to do it. To get the deets, please check out thementorsstudio.com.